What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Amateur Experts Podcast, where we are experts about absolutely nothing. Um, and especially this last week, I'm definitely not an expert. Drew was, though. I think you went 2-0, didn't you?
Yeah, 100%,
Yeah.
bro. 2-0.
See,
Yeah.
you should be hosting this motherfucker because.
Uh,
but obviously, for those listening, you know who we are. Landon and Oliver, your host, with my co-host Andrew Scott.
yes, sir. Let's go.
All right, man. So it's a big weekend. I think we had a couple games happen, couple little minor things that went on Sunday. So let's kind of get started. You know, Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers was the matchup. Just those two. One versus
Nobody
one
else
football.
played the
Yeah,
entire
one
game.
versus one football. Aaron Rodgers choked by himself. He did not have a good game at all.
Right. Yeah.
Unless you look at the stats. And Tom Brady, man, single-handedly taking the Bucks.
All he does is win, no matter what.
I love it, man. I love it, dude. This is everything I've been saying for like 20 years, just like rolled right into one fucking game, dude. It's hilarious. I love it. So obviously, if you don't know, if you didn't watch it, it's actually a very entertaining game. Like, it was a good game. A lot better than the other one, for damn sure. But yeah, we had Tampa Bay, going into Lambeau, beating the Packers, and now they are on to their first Super Bowl appearance since they won back in 2003. And it would be Tom Brady's 10th Super Bowl appearance. Obviously, just putting icing on that cake, putting a cherry on top, because I think he already held the record to begin with. So let's just put it.
He's got about he's got like every playoff appearance and win and quarterback stat record at this point.
Dude, he's got more playoff wins than I think all but 10 franchises.
Yeah.
It's something stupid.
Now, I saw a stat that he's made this, his percentage of seasons making the Super Bowl since he got drafted is a higher percentage than the Jets have won a game since he got drafted. So Brady's more likely to make a Super Bowl than the Jets are to win a game.
I saw something kind of similar to that. Man. It was a different sport, but they said Tom Brady is more likely to win a Super Bowl or appear in a Super Bowl than Steph Curry is to make a point shot.
yeah. His Super Bowl percentage is higher than Steph's
Steph Curry's 3-point percentage.
Yeah,
I think he's made after this one he will have made over 18% of every Super Bowl that's ever been played. Which I know 18% doesn't sound like a lot, but that's an astronomical number compared to anybody, because everybody else is 0.6.
And it's just under 50% since he's been in the league, right?
He's made something 10 of 21.
10 out of 21, yeah.
And I mean, really, the one season that he missed, back in 2008, so technically he didn't play that year, so technically it's 10 out of 20.
So insane, man. I mean, we troll, but we know it's a team sport. It takes more than just Brady. But regardless, just the fact that he keeps putting himself in that position, regardless, different teams and things like that, different coordinators. I mean, he's had stability at head coach for most of his career, but players come and go, coordinators come and go, and Brady and his team just keeps winning, man. And it's crazy. Man. It is so insane.
And that's the thing, about this game. And this is why, this game is everything, the epitome of everything I've been saying for 20 years, is because dude didn't even play that well. He had a 70 QBR. He threw 3 straight interceptions in the second half.
He did play really well in the first half. Yeah.
Well, and technically one of those passes that he got, that 3 touchdown, is I guess Greg Williams charaded as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Green Bay Packers defensive coordinator for one play, because that was just straight that was one of the
one right before halftime.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Packers defensive coordinator was doing. Yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah, that's the one play they can run, and why you call, why you have inside leverage with no safety help. That's straight up. That is straight up the same shit the Jets did a few weeks ago. It's the same thing. And so
it's the same thing. Who did the Raiders blew a game like that?
Yeah, I think to
in the
I
It's
can't
muddy.
remember who it was to.
Who was it? Oh, played just like that. That's what it made me think of immediately whenever I saw that play. But at the end of the day, I mean, he's still got to make the throw. The guy on the other end has to make the catch. I mean, the guys have to make plays. And man, what a run, dude! What a
Yeah, it's
run!
crazy. That guy's got a horseshoe stuck up his ass,
Yeah,
man.
right.
Like
Yeah.
like the amount of luck that guy's had, and like I'm not like obvious. Okay, so let me preface this because when I say that Tom Brady is lucky, everybody thinks I'm saying Tom Brady is not good at football because they can't differentiate like any sort of like not saying that Brady is God, but
Right.
like which coincidentally is similar to somebody else we'll talk about here in a few minutes. Um, but so like the plays like the Julian Edelman catch, the field goals like in the snow from 50 plus yards, like the odds are astronomically stacked against him. Like Marshawn not getting the handoff, like and Russell throwing that pick. The Rams completely disintegrating in both Super Bowls. Like
We don't got to talk about
after
that.
after mass like
I was with you, but now I'm not
I know.
anymore. We got to
I'm
talk about
sorry.
that.
I'm sorry. I'm just saying. I'm saying like
Yeah, I
and
know.
like yeah, like especially with those, like there's been some scandal there, to say the least. There's been a little scandal there, but at the same time, like the amount of luck you have to like get to that kind of a stage, or like well, even like a couple years ago, like D Ford, lining 2 inches offsides on that game sealing interception. Like he threw a
Yeah.
pick, like that would have been game, and
Kansas
he's
City
two
got so
inches
mad they
away.
shipped his ass
Yeah,
off.
legit, man. And like, so I mean, like the amount of luck that you just have to have,
Hey,
like,
I
it's
mean,
just astronomical.
yeah, at the
Like,
end of the
it's
day,
unheard of.
you don't make 10 Super Bowls without a little bit of luck sprinkled in there. But
Oh yeah,
the thing, and what I think you're getting at by saying, prefacing it with you don't think that like you know that he's a good player is you have to keep putting yourself in that position
yeah,
to
absolutely.
let luck fall on your side. Like if you suck before the conference championship or
You're never
before
gonna
the
be
Super
there.
Bowl, it doesn't matter if you have luck on your side or not because you don't get a chance to let it play out. And
Yeah,
he keeps
but
putting
see,
himself in a position to have a chance to win, and more often than not, the ball's dropped in his favor. And I
yeah,
mean,
which is what I'm saying is wild. Like I'm not. That's what I'm saying is like
right?
you
Yeah,
basically laid it out better than I could because I'm not saying the dude's bad at quarterbacking. I'm just saying like the amount of times that things go his way whenever normally they should not is
right.
just unparalleled. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy to watch.
Yeah,
Like
because
where you
like
can,
the game-winning Super Bowl winning field goals is what makes the headline, but like, him driving them down to put them in position for that after their defense just gave up a touchdown and things like that. Like though that's not the stuff that makes the headlines. And there's been so many quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, that have been on the opposite end of that where they they drive their they drive their team down, score a touchdown, and then the other team, their defense screws up. The other team comes down and puts them in the lead, and Rodgers and Manning just don't get another chance.
well,
Whereas
yeah, or like
Brady, there's
like the
there's just
Manning,
happened to be enough time on the clock where Brady gets another chance to drive you down the field, and then Vinatieri kicks a field goal to win the game. Where other
yeah, or
quarterbacks, they
yeah,
just
where
don't
other
have that
like for
time.
example, like this is '05, like the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Steelers Colts game in the divisional round, which is to me like to this day that's the most talented, the best Colts team of all time. They didn't win the Super Bowl that year, so it's the divisional round. They were going up against the Steelers. I think it was Big Ben's second season, and Manning drives them down the length of the field, to win the game. Like set them up for like a 30-yard like chip shot field goal, like to win the ball game in the playoffs. Kicker misses it. It goes to overtime. Manning never touches the ball. Boom, playoff loss. And that gets put on his record. And that's everybody's like, oh, well, Manning choked another football game in the playoffs. He drove him down there to win the game. Kicker misses it. He never sees the ball again. And like that's the kind of shit that like that would never happen to Tom Brady. Like his kicker would have nailed that. And he's yeah, it's crazy to like watch stuff like that play out for a dude, but obviously, and people that don't talk to me often that might listen to this, they get surprised by it, but like he's the greatest quarterback of all time, man. Like I never thought I would say that. If you would have told me that 5 years ago, like I would have just laughed because he had 3 Super Bowls at that point, and I was just like, man, Manning has two. It's Manning's always been a more talented quarterback as an individual player than me, but then like he won those other three, and he's in another one. Like
And it's just like the
it's ridiculous,
longevity. I
dude.
mean, like I don't like the whole longevity argument whenever we get into like if you're talking about if somebody deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, like a big heated debate. Now that he's retiring, he's going to be Philip Rivers. Is he a Hall of Famer or not? He's got great career numbers because he had longevity. Um, but like just it's insane, man, that like this guy, it's really, I mean, LeBron's obviously younger, but it's really similar to what LeBron's doing, where these guys just continue. It's not like they're just hanging around in the league at at a
Yeah, they're
higher
playing
age than
at
most
yeah,
people.
they're
They're
playing at
still
extremely high
playing.
levels.
Right. Like they might not be the best player in the league, which you can make an argument for both of them that they are, but if they're not the best, they're in the group of the best still whenever people the same age as them are, filtering out of the league and things like that. I just think that's where they start to separate themselves. And it's just insane to me, man. Like it's just everybody says that, that Mother Nature and that time is undefeated and eventually, everybody loses to them. And guys like that just don't come around that often just keep saying,
Uh,
"No, not yet."
yeah,
And
dude, they're kicking Mother Nature right in like the
yeah,
fucking face, and
it's
yeah,
crazy, man.
yeah, dude, it's wild to think about. And like Brady, like because Manning, like watching Manning, obviously, like Peyton got carried basically to that second ring. And I mean, he played well in the playoffs, but
I think
I
he
mean,
deserved to get carried though after all he went
after
through.
all those years of carrying, yeah, we saw what happened to that because basically Peyton Manning got hurt and we won 2 games, and we
Yeah.
were going from like, yeah, it's ridiculous. Um, but yeah, just watching him, like, and I know, like, the neck surgery, and like he had a lot of health issues there. Like they didn't even know he was going to be able to pick a ball up, which is why we moved on from him and drafted Luck. I think if we would have known he would have played at such a high level, like for another 5 years, I don't think we would have got rid of him, honestly.
Right.
But anyway, getting into this game, um, man, there's not really much to even talk about other than just because Green, like, it's so weird. Like, if you look statistically at the game, Green Bay outplayed them in every area of the game. Like, they won the turnover battle, they won the time of possession, they won the rushing yards. Like, they basically, like, every key area of that game, Green Bay outplayed them.
I didn't
And
realize they had more rushing yards. That's crazy.
yeah, dude. So here, let me pull this up because I know TJ Lane tweeted this out earlier, which if you don't know who that is, he was a former guard for the Packers and the
Mhm.
Detroit Lions, former all pro player as well, like great offensive lineman. Um, he actually tweeted out how rare it was to have Tampa Bay win that ball game. Um, so let me see if I can pull it up here.
While you're looking for that, some of the takeaways that I took away from it, Jesus. So Rogers was sacked 5 times. Which was a big deal. The Bucks were able to get pressure on the edge that the Rams weren't previously, which we know obviously, the Rams, they generate pressure from the inside first with Aaron Donald. And despite all the injuries and everything that have happened to the Packers on their offensive line, their middle of the offensive line is still heavily intact. So having, Aaron Donald at 50% and not being able to generate anything off the edge, the edge rushers for Tampa were incredible. So I think that played a big part of it. And then the other thing that really stuck out to me was like Rodgers was incredible. He played a great game, but it just seemed like in the few moments where the game was there for the taking and Rodgers needed to be great, things just did not go their way. I mean, Tampa did what they did against New Orleans, where they were able to capitalize on the turnovers that their defense created, while Green Bay did not. I mean, they had um, twice in the fourth quarter, the Packers had the ball off of a Brady interception with a chance to take the lead, and both the times it was 3 and out. And it's just like, like right after halftime, whenever Aaron Jones fumbled and Tampa got the ball, it was a quick touchdown from Brady to, I think, Cameron Brate. And it was the same thing against New Orleans. Every time that Breeze would throw a pick, Tampa would trot on the field and just score a quick TD. And just, small plays like that. It was like Rodgers really from start to finish. I think Rodgers outplayed Brady personally, but in the moments where they needed to be great, Brady just I don't know, man. It's like in the first half, Brady played so good that the second half struggled. I mean, the first drive of the third quarter was fine because they had that short field from the Jones fumble. But after that, Brady really didn't play that well, but it didn't matter because of how well he played in the first half and then how well the Bucs defense played in the second half and just the missed opportunities, man. I mean, Green Bay had so many chances to take control of that game in the second half, in the fourth quarter specifically, and they just didn't take advantage. And I mean, I don't understand why you kick a field goal on 4th and goal with Rodgers as your quarterback whenever you have a chance to, to knock the game up. There was a big, which hindsight's 2020. It's easy for us, to look at a screen and say, oh, he should have run it there. But there was a play where I think it was the same drive on 3rd and goal whenever he tried to force the ball into a tight window. And then whenever you saw the replay, there was a running lane there for Rodgers that was wide open, where if he would have just run that ball in, he could have possibly walked into the end zone.
Yeah.
Um,
From what I understand, though, like from what Rodgers said in the press conference, is like the reason why he didn't run that in is
he
because
thought he had 4 plays.
he was under the
Yeah,
impression that they were going to go for it on 4th down
right.
regardless. And I think
Yeah,
like
why wouldn't you think that? I mean, that was
because that's the game. That's the game. They kicked that game
exactly.
away. So here we go. I did make a mistake. Let me correct that. It was AJ Hawk that said that, not TJ Lane. So here are all of the areas that Green Bay outperformed Tampa Bay at: total yards, passing yards. They had so Green Bay had 9 less rushing yards, so they were within 10 yards rushing. Both teams were. More first downs, the same 3rd down efficiency, more plays run, um, turnover, and they had 10 minutes more time of possession. So Green Bay beat them in all of those areas, and they still lost.
Yeah, I think a big thing, like just looking at regular season versus postseason versus this game specifically, I guess, the Packers were the best team, I believe, in terms of red zone efficiency on the offensive side of the ball in the red zone during the regular season. And then there was twice in this game, one of which should have never happened. They should have went for it, but twice in this game they were in the red zone and they chose to kick a field goal. And
Which I mean, like, and there was a lot of plays in the red zone as well, like Devontae Adams dropping that ball. Like,
mm-hmm.
how often does that happen? Like, it's almost never.
Yeah, I think he
Like,
had one drop the entire season up to that point.
yeah, and then he drops one in his hands in the end zone. Like, it's
It was a
just
perfect back shoulder throw. Like Rodgers made the perfect throw.
like
It's a catch that Adams makes in his sleep.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, just that fucking horseshoe, man. Like, it's insane. Like, it's I don't understand it.
So I wanna show Rodgers some love because I think I'm one of the people that have kind of taken Rodgers for granted up to this point about how good he's been just because of the Packers' lack of postseason success. Like, I know he's a great quarterback and an all-time quarterback, but like even going into this season, I said that I thought Russell Wilson would have a better season than Aaron Rodgers. And I don't think I've really taken into like I don't think I've really truly embraced how great he's been. And so I saw some stuff that I wanted to make sure to bring up. First thing being, this is Rodgers' 3rd playoff loss while throwing 3 or more touchdowns, which is most in NFL history. And then in his career, this was mind blowing to me. In his career, Rodgers has generated an offensive EPA per game of a plus 8.6 in the playoffs. His defense and special teams has combined for an EPA per game of negative 7.1. So for context on that, Brady has an offensive EPA per game of plus 6.7 in the playoffs, and his defense and special teams has combined for a negative 0.3. So a negative 0.3 versus a negative 0.71 for defensive special teams, and then he was a plus 6.7 versus a plus 8.6. Peyton Manning has a plus 3.1 offensive EPA per game in the playoffs while having a negative 2.2 defense and special teams EPA. And then this was the one that really, they're getting, I talked about Rodgers and Wilson. Russell Wilson has a plus 2.3 offensive EPA per game in the playoffs, while his defense and special teams has a positive 1.5 EPA in the playoffs. The only one out of that, I mean, there was more people that I was looking at a list. There was more, Big Ben was on the list. Flacco was like Joe Flacco, like his offense was like negative and the defense was positive, and he won a Super Bowl. Like there was other people, but those were the big names that kind of jumped out. And it was just mind blowing to me that,
so have you seen the stat it kind of goes on with what you're saying? Like Aaron Rodgers' teams in the playoffs, his defense gives up an average of 41 points per game in the playoff. 41.
Yeah.
Like that's almost impossible to overcome.
Yeah.
Like,
and it has to feel like a slap in the face. Like you're one of the best teams in the NFL. You prove it in the regular season last year. And then your team says, all right, so our plan in the draft this year is we're going to draft your replacement in the first round. We're going to draft a running back in the second round, even though we already have Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, who is like, I mean, for my money, they're one of the better running back duos in the league. We're gonna draft a running back and a quarterback with our first 2 picks and not try to help you at all. And then he carries them to the point that they made it. And it's just like, why do the Packers hate Aaron Rodgers? That's the point I've come to, is somebody in the Packers organization hates Aaron Rodgers. And
well, I think
don't
he's
know
kind of
why.
questioning that himself after that press conference last night.
Right. Yeah. It's just, but like some of those stats were they were really mind blowing. I mean, there was plays that could have been made that, like there was one read where Lazard was wide open and he went to Adams instead. There was that play where he could have possibly run it in for a touchdown. There's little bitty plays here and there that, like, looking back now, and
this is not to absolve him of any blame. He didn't.
No, there was plays where he could have made it, he didn't, but he played well enough to win that game, though.
Absolutely.
And that's been the story for a lot of his career, is he's played well enough to win a lot of games that his team hasn't won. And it's a shame that one of the best quarterbacks that's ever played, one of the best quarterbacks in my lifetime, his career has just kind of gone to a waste at this point. And it's a shame it's taken me up until now to really realize it to this depth. And
I'm slowly converting you over to individual play over team success. Yeah,
no, I've been with you on that, but Rodgers I've been kind of sleeping on, and it's a shame, man. It really is. But I mean, but we talked about drops and things like that. Something that kind of really blew my mind was Chris Godwin has 7 drops on 27 targets in the postseason so far. Now that's compared to 6 drops over 342 targets prior to the postseason starting up. I think a lot of that has to do with the injury he had to. There was he broke one of his fingers, or closer toward the end of the year. But I mean, you got the Bucs dealing with drops too, and it's just like every team deals with all this type of stuff. And I don't know. Somehow Brady ends up winning these games and other quarterbacks end up losing them. I can't make sense of it. I don't know why.
Nobody can. It just happens, man.
It just happened. Like there was like 4 plays in that game where like Tyler Johnson dropped an easy catch. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. There's another one that I'm not thinking of right now. Like there was multiple plays where I'm like, if he makes that play, like their lead is even bigger. And this was at a point in the first half where I'm like, oh, this was going to be a good game. And it ended up being a good game. But in the first half, I'm sitting there like, man, like the Bucs are in control of this game, and they could be in even more control of it if these guys are just catching these passes. So I don't know, man. It's crazy. I think like my takeaway from this game is Tom Brady did it again, and I don't know how. And I feel really bad for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's kind of where mine is. So let's. So now that we've said our piece about that, let's get over to this other game as well. We had the Chiefs, or let me rephrase that. We have the Buffalo Bills versus Patrick Mahomes. One verse.
Basically, at this point.
Yeah, one verse, however many people that play for the Bills, 53. So this was another one that this game was not even close because you had two guys, and I think you can say this about pretty much every Kansas City game that I've ever actually sat down and watched, and especially in the postseason this year, where you have two dudes that basically just take over an entire game by themselves, and that's Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And I have no it blows my mind literally like every time I watch a fucking Chiefs game, and there's not anybody within 15 yards of these motherfuckers, and I don't understand it, dude. It just blows my mind every time. And it's like Mahomes is back there, and like there'll be a little bit of pressure, and he'll run out, and like he'll make a pass that I've seen quarterbacks do for 15 years, and all that kind of good stuff. But he'll make a pass, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, how did he make that pass?" And then I look, and there's 15 yards between the nearest defender and his receiver. And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, and it's always Tyreek Hill and it's always Travis Kelce.
Well, so
imagine it's like if there's two dudes that you need to defend on that whole offense, like I don't care if you let everybody else run free, put four dudes on each one of them and just have three defenders play the other whole half of the field.
Like it's just insane. Your thinking isn't wrong. Like on that,
it's
your thinking isn't wrong. But imagine trying to you cover Tyreek for the entirety of his normal route that he would run, but then now Mahomes is scrambling and Tyreek just gets to create on his own. Like good luck catching with somebody that's that skilled, that fast, and now he just has the freedom to get where he needs to get Mahomes to get him the ball. Like no shot. You're not keeping up with him. And Kelce, Kelce's the best tight. You got I don't think Hill's the best wide receiver in football, but he is one of the best. And then Kelce is the best tight end in football. So you got these two guys that they know Mahomes really well. They've been playing together for several years now, and they're just the thing with Mahomes versus every other quarterback that I'll give him is like it seems so. There's a lot of quarterbacks that can create once the play breaks up. They can scramble out, they can make something happen. But a lot of for most quarterbacks not named Mahomes, there'll be some great plays, and then there'll be some plays where they try to create, after everything breaks down, and you're like, what the hell are they doing? With Mahomes, it seems like every single play after he starts to create is a positive. Like once you see him roll out, you're like, ah, shit. If you're a fan of the other team. But I think that goes
back. But I think on the flip side of that, and this isn't once again, this isn't taking anything away from Patrick Mahomes. He's a great player. He's the best quarterback in football right now. I'm not saying anything negative. So before y'all start coming at me saying, look, you don't think he's the best. Don't be pulling that shit. But I'm just saying, you watch those other dudes create and they go out and they make those throws and they're throwing in, they're just throwing fucking balls up into double coverage, or there's, two dudes on their receiver, or there's something like that. But when Mahomes does it, like I said, you look and there ain't nobody within 10 yards of damn it. I don't understand it every Chiefs game I watch. And I don't know what these defensive coordinators are watching. And I know Mahomes scrambling and creating plays, parts in that. But even when he's in the pocket, I mean, you watch the Chiefs game, even when he's in the pocket throwing,
they're still open.
They're still wide the fuck open.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me. So I think until somebody figures out how to not leave them open, how do you win?
It's a perfect recipe of
talent, coaching,
offenses,
skill.
Yeah. I mean, it's the perfect.
It is. It really is the perfect storm.
That was, for my money, one of the best offensive minds of my life. And wait, you're frozen on my screen. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. You're frozen on mine actually, but I can still hear you. You still talking. Can you still hear me?
Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah, I got you back now. I got you. Oh, whew. Man, so we were too deep to start this over. All right, so I'm jumping right back in it. All right, so you've got the one of the best offensive minded head coaches of my lifetime, I think. Who before Mahomes' arrival, he was kind of considered a choker. He couldn't manage clock. He couldn't win the big game, but he was an offensive genius though, and And then Patrick Mahomes, one of the most talented quarterbacks to come across the league in a long time, arrives. You've got all the weapons in place. You've got a very underrated defense. And this is
perfect storm, man.
This is something special that these guys out there in Kansas City are building, man. And I'm going to tell you one mistake I'm not going to make. Whenever the Patriots were building their dynasty, I wanted to shoo poo poo, get that shit out of my face, because I'm a Rams fan, and that dynasty started with a Super Bowl win against the Rams. And so I was bitter. I hated Brady. I hated Belichick. Still kind of do hate. Still a lot of do hate Belichick. Still kind of hate Brady, but have a lot of respect for both of those guys. And I'm not making that mistake with this one. I'm gonna enjoy it.
You sit
I'm
back
not.
and watch, man.
Yeah, I'm a Rams fan, so I can't enjoy it as much as Chiefs fans would. But I'm just gonna sit back and just like soak in the greatness of what they're doing right now out in Kansas City, because it truly is incredible. I mean, the Chiefs have lost one game across their last 26 meaningful games, one out of 26. And every single, like we've been talking about the last few podcasts, we've been talking about like the Chiefs are just waiting to hit this next gear. Like they didn't care in the regular season, very
They
similar to
did.
what NBA teams don't care about. And then they went up against a Bills team that was by far the hottest team in football. And they made the Bills look like they were a team that had no business even being in the playoffs. Like Josh Allen. So this was a PFF thing. So poo on PFF. I know people don't like it, but he had an 83.4 PFF grade versus the blitz over for the entire season. And then he had a 45.5 PFF grade against the blitz against Kansas City. And it was pretty similar to that the last time they played Kansas City, week 6 of the regular season. Like Kansas City, their defensive coordinator, shout out to him. He deserves a lot of credit. He knows how to stop Josh Allen. And their secondary is legit. Chris Jones is legit. I still
Tyrann
don't
Mathieu
know.
is the best safety in football, man.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah, he
I
is.
like that. Just watching that dude play is such a joy. Like,
Yeah.
especially like with me, like, and this is so weird, like, because I'm a Colts fan, and I know, like, we spent years the offensive Star Wars numbers, all that bullshit. But at my core, I'm so much more of a defensive football fan than I am offensive numbers. Like, I can set now, like, you got to preface this with like, if you watch a 10-7 game and it's just because the offenses are playing like shit and nobody's playing good, like that's not fun. But if I'm sitting like and I'm watching, a 10-7 game and these defenses are going at each other and like they're playing like I love defense. So like to sit back and watch what Tyrann Mathieu does on a weekly basis in the National Football League is so fun for me, man. It's so awesome. And then Chris Jones, like you said, like guy's a monster. I think that that kid they drafted, I think Sneed is Sneed, the cornerback they drafted. Like the way that guy blitzes, which I think he got Josh Allen a couple times yesterday. But the way that guy can come off blitzes and disguise himself, I think their GM Brett Veach like hit a home run.
Yeah, it's just another of the many draft picks that they've hit on over the last several years. I mean,
and that's
crazy.
what you got to do. So
yeah.
This is the big game or whatever we got coming up.
Whatever we're allowed to call it.
Weeks. Yeah, whatever we're not copyright infringing on here. This is literally going to be like the perfect storm meets the immovable object, and it's like which one's going to give? Like, does Brady like? Because it's the same shit last time. Like whenever they played, like the last time, whenever he was in the AFC, and like I was saying, D Ford is 2 inches off line, 2 inches off the line, and Tom Brady wins
They're
that game
over the Chiefs to being
like,
in 3 straight Super
Bowls, and I mean, but that's the luck of Tom Brady. So like now, do you what happens, man? Like does Brady keep that luck going, or does Kansas City keep rolling? Because you literally have, like I said, the unstoppable force meets the immovable object, and it's just who's going to give first. Like,
yeah, I'm not. We're not going to give any spoilers.
We're not making a pick yet because we got a pretty big show coming up here.
Yeah, we're trying to plan a big show for that to get a bunch of people on to give our picks. But you're exactly right, and I mean, it's man, I mean, and another like I missed out on appreciating, which granted, Brady has been really good the back half of his career. He made great plays, obviously the front half of his career to put the Patriots in position to win Super Bowls,
But
but
they didn't win because of him. Like
right,
they,
but like I ignored a lot of that because I hated him at the time because I was a Rams fan who was still very salty about
but
that,
at least you were in a
and
different
that's
conference. Imagine being a Colts fan going up
yeah,
against them in the.
yeah, I
Just
can't imagine.
ridiculous.
But that's going back to my point. I'm not going to make like I made that mistake with Brady. I've made that mistake with LeBron in the NBA of kind of like poo-pooing a lot of what they were doing because of just the fandom in me of being fans of people that they were continuously shitting on. And I'm not going to make that mistake with Mahomes like I did with Brady. I'm going to enjoy all of this. I mean, the dude is 25 years old. He's going to back-to-back Super Bowls. He's been a Super Bowl champ, Super Bowl MVP. He's two AFC titles, three
Shout
AFC
out to
titles, whatever.
shout. This is gonna sound super like shitty of me, but like shout out to Super Bowl MVP Darrell Williams last season. By the way, bro, I know quarterbacks get all the glory. You got robbed, bro. So you got a fan here.
He's the first quarterback. The first quarterback with three. He's 25 years old, and he's already the first quarterback with three 10-point comebacks and one postseason. And it's just it's mind blowing to me. Man, he's
Yeah, 3 straight championship games,
He's
like in a row.
Mahomes has 3 touchdown passes and 0 interceptions in all three of his conference championship games. Nobody else has more than one. He's 25 and he has 3 of them. Nobody in history has more than one. He's 4-1 when trailing by 2 or more scores in the playoffs.
Stupid.
The
That's so
only quarterback with
stupid.
more wins in that situation of like being down 2 or more scores in the playoffs is Brady with 6,
Yeah, I was
who's
gonna say
played
the
for
guy
like
he's going up
20.
against.
Yeah, like Brady has 2 more wins in that situation than Mahomes, who is 25 years. Like, great, it's a team effort. You have to have a great head coach, you have to have a great system, you have to have weapons around you, a defense that can win games. But like Patrick Mahomes is absolutely incredible, man. And I'm not about to poo-poo his
Dude, it's
career
fun
away like
watching.
I did the
Man, I'll tell
beginning
you
of
what.
Brady's.
Any chance that y'all have to own Patrick Mahomes in a dynasty fantasy football league with 6 point passing touchdowns, you should 100% do that because it's so fun.
He's just the guy's
It's fun,
incredible,
man.
man. I mean, he's got great weapons. Obviously, he's got a great guy calling plays, but he continues to get
You
it
got to make
done
the
over
throws.
and over and over, and
Like that throw
he's
he made
incredible, man.
yesterday. So there's 2 throws I want to touch on yesterday that he made. That like so like it's one of those that like you're watching the game and like you see somebody make a play, and it feels like this is every Chiefs game you watch, even the ones that don't even mean anything. But like you see somebody make a play and you go, oh shit. And it's like that every game. So he made a throw to Travis Kelce, which they were in zone coverage, and this is what you should do. But if you get a chance to pull the clip up, um, so there's a clip that it shows when he releases the ball, and Kelsey and the defender for the Bills, I believe it might have been Williams or it might have been Milano. I'm not for
Somebody
sure,
that got cooked.
but so he releases the ball, and Kelsey's here, the defender's here. He throws it this way in the zone, and by the time Kelsey hits right in there, it's perfectly in between 3 guys, and the anticipation on that is just phenomenal. And then that throw he made where he was getting sacked and he got spun around and he just zips it like right in there when he throws it over.
Right.
Like it wasn't as good of a throw. So here we go. I'm gonna get shit off. I hate Patrick Mahomes. It wasn't. It reminded me a lot of this throw Andrew Luck made a few years back, where Luck was getting tackled by his knees, and he was basically like half an inch from the ground, like from his knees touching the ground, and he throws this 40-yard bomb and drops it right in the bucket. I think it might have been Donnie Avery, which shout out to football fans if you know who Donnie Avery is.
Yeah, a lot of people
So,
are saying, "Who's that guy?"
yeah, who the fuck's Donnie Avery? So he throws this bomb, like literally his knees were half an inch from the ground, and he throws a 40-yard touchdown pass and drops it in a bucket to Donnie Avery. And that throw he made yesterday, where he's like literally twisted and he's falling down, and he's got a guy on his back, and he throws it, which, I mean, it was, 15-yard gain. It wasn't for a touchdown, but it reminded me so much of that luck play. And it was one of those plays that you watch and you just go, oh shit. Like, how's that even possible, man? It's so much fun to watch that guy. So,
and there was
while we're on the topic, we did. Or here, what were you gonna say? Go on.
The one other thing that blows my mind about Mahomes, and then we can move on. There was a clip. LeBron has the show on HBO called The Shop, and last offseason, after the Chiefs won their first Super Bowl, he had Mahomes on the show, and Mahomes was talking about his progression and things, and he admitted that he didn't even really learn how to read defenses until like halfway through that Super Bowl season. Like he's the man is just now really learning how to read defenses, and he's out here. He threw 50 touchdowns and won MVP before he even knew how to really read defenses. And then the next year, halfway through a season where he's just now kind of figuring it out, he wins a Super Bowl, and then now he's in another Super Bowl, and it's just like, if you're a fan of any other team, how does that not terrify you? Like, I'm just glad that we're in the NFC, that the Rams are in the NFC.
You guys have a chance to make a Super Bowl.
Like, at least we can make it to play against him, that's terrifying, man. And like his contract, even though it's a huge contract, it's team friendly this year. It's pretty team friendly next year. Like, it really doesn't hit hard on the team until I think the year after that. And
they've got all those weapons,
and they've got a bunch of guys already locked up for the next several years.
Chris Jones, Kelsey, which I know Kelsey, he's like, he's in his 30s now. I think he's probably like same age as me, but
yeah, I think he is exactly 30 or maybe 31. But and then their front office hits on so many draft picks. It's like these guys have the making and the build up. Like imagine being an AFC fan, like a fan of an AFC team. You had to deal with the Patriots for like 20 years.
Yeah, now
and then just now the Patriots are finally, they missed the playoffs. The end is coming. Oh, hey, here you go. Here's the Chiefs and the dynasty upcoming. Like, thank God that my team is in the NFC. So that was kind of the last thing that I wanted to bring up. Like,
it sucks, man.
Hey, I'm just sitting back and enjoying the greatest and thanking God I don't have to see that guy until the Super Bowl. That's when if my team is even lucky enough to make it that far. So
yeah, it's not fun. So so while we're on the topic of quarterbacks, man, like I want to kind of get into some quarterbacks because there's a lot of shit that could go down here in the next few months. There's a lot of these quarterbacks that are possibly on the move. I think you froze again. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now. Yep.
So we had that list here of all the quarterbacks that are going to be could possibly be on the move,
right,
for the next off season. So we have Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, which if you didn't hear that press conference, we'll kind of get into that. Matthew Stafford, fingers crossed. Dak Prescott, Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Cam Newton. And then there's, some that could obviously, there's about 5 or 6 more that could move, but we think they're going to end up being backups. But all those guys can be moved into starter positions, possibly this next offseason. So let's go ahead. We do want to, pick where we think some of these guys are going to go. I know we touched on Deshaun Watson last week, so we will kick it off with him and just kind of make this very simple. So Deshaun Watson, kind of where you see that one playing out. Do you think he returns to Houston and tries to smooth things over? Or do you think he's playing for a different team next year?
I think he's gone. All the reports that have come out about him wanting to be out, and then the fact that, like, a lot of people thought that the saving grace was going to be them hiring Eric Bieniemy, the Chiefs OC, and then, like, conveniently this week, the news dropped that it doesn't matter who they hire as head coach, Watson wants out. Yeah, I think it would be crazy for them to hold on to him, and I think the Jets have the best package to offer for them. I mean, the Dolphins don't have a bad package at all, but the fact that the Jets are Watson's preferred choice, and he has a no trade clause, and the Jets have the pieces to go get him, I think it makes a lot of sense for him to be on the Jets. And so I think he does. I think that's where he ends up if I had to guess. on a landing spot for him. I don't think there's any chance he plays for Houston next year. And I think it's down to the Jets and the Dolphins, and I think the Jets is the likeliest of the choices just because of, like I mentioned, what they have to offer, and then the fact that that's where Watson wants to be, according to reports, and he's got no trade clause to make sure that he can make that happen. So I think that's where Watson goes personally.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like with all the reports saying that's where he wants to be, and then not having that no trade clause, and then of course with them having the picks that they can offer, I think he does, end up in New York. Which why anybody would want to go. I mean, I know like New York's done a lot of changeover and all that stuff, but it's still the Jets. Like they've not proven that they can put together anything. So whereas the Dolphins, like if I was him and I was looking at that scenario, like the Dolphins are basically one win away from the playoffs. They won double-digit games. You have basically one of the best defenses in the league, one of the best coaches in the league. It's all set. That's where I would want to go. Now, as a fan in the AFC, like I don't want him to go there because it's going to be the same thing with like the Mahomes Chiefs things, where like, now I got to worry about them, and at the same time, now I got to worry about the Dolphins with
I,
Deshaun
I
Watson.
I think you
So
could I think you could be having that same conversation really quick about the Jets though if he does go there. I mean
yeah, but I
they've
still
got their
think they still have a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the ball,
they
and
have more work than Miami, but they have a whole shit ton of cap room. And if Deshaun Watson lands at the Jets, granted that'll take up some of their cap room, but then now you have a lot of free agents that weren't even
going to want to play
considering the
there.
Jets that are like, hey, the Jets might not be a bad spot to be. And they do have some pieces already in place on top of the, cap space they have. So
Plus the
I mean,
allure of New York City, man. Like it's a magical place.
right,
People want to be
yeah.
there.
Imagine being in
Um,
the AFC East, man. Like you had to deal with Brady for so long. Now he's gone, and then all of a sudden Josh Allen emerges, and now you've got possibly Deshaun Watson
the
coming.
Dolphins are a
Like,
good squad. Like if Tua
yeah,
ever puts it together, and then
yeah.
now possibly the Jets. Like yeah, it's insane. I'll tell you what, man. Like I said, if any fan wants to be a fan of a division that is constantly just screwing itself over, come to the coast, man. Be a fan of the AFC South because
Yeah.
like it's wondrous. Like to be like one of probably the only competent teams in our division. It's hilarious. So then Deshaun Watson ends up in New York. Now we can get back to Sam Darnold. So where does Sam
Right.
Darnold end up? Is he backing up there? Or are they shipping him off?
I think for the trade to work, and I think a lot of picks are going to be involved, but I think Donald would end up being in that discussion of being you've got like what 1 year, right? Like they don't have to make
Yeah,
a
they've got his
decision.
fifth year option. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, they could throw Darnold out there, see how he does in a new system, in a new situation, and see if he improves. And if the Texans suck and he sucks, then hey, you've got a good draft pick because of it. You can cut ties with Darnold and you can continue the rebuild, which obviously, if you're trading Deshaun Watson, you're in real rebuild mode anyway. So I would think if the Watson trade works out, the natural landing spot is to just be in Houston. But if that doesn't work out, if they do look to trade him, I don't think it's a bad idea for them to just take, some offensive line help. The offensive lineman from Oregon, his name's slipping me right now, but I don't think
Penny
it's a,
Sewell.
yeah, I don't think it's a terrible idea to just grab that and run it back with Darnold and see what you got. And if you suck again, then now you know where you need to go.
Right.
Um, but if he doesn't go to Houston in that trade and they don't draft a quarterback and try to trade him, um, I would like to see him in Washington personally. That would be,
That's what I was gonna say. That was gonna be
that,
my destination.
yeah,
Is I think that I think I could very likely see Sam Darnold um, with Washington or maybe even possibly the Chicago Bears because they're rumored to be very active in this quarterback market that's coming because I think Trubisky is also going to be a free agent. They still have Foles there for another season or so, but um, I think you can bring in somebody like Darnold there and compete. But yeah, Washington would kind of be where I would hang my hat if I had to on him ending up. And so some of these other guys too now, I definitely want to get to. I don't know if anybody saw the Aaron Rodgers press conference, but this is probably like fans and media reading way too much into what he says. But Aaron Rodgers is also one of
Yeah.
those guys that like he doesn't say anything like just kind of out of pocket. Like he's very calculated with what he says, and he basically said that there's a lot of things to think about this next season coming up, this off season, and there's because they have a ton of free agents, they don't have a lot of money, and he said, there's a lot of guys whose futures here are in question, and he said, including myself. So whatever he says, including myself,
That sent the
obviously, whenever it's a
sports world
player,
into a frenzy.
yeah, exactly. Whenever it's a player the caliber of Aaron Rodgers, everybody jumps on that. Personally, man, well, not only did the cap does the cap not work for them to even get rid of Rodgers, even if they wanted to, because they're already like 20 something million over for next season, and then you cut him, and you've got another, $30 million that's hitting your cap as well for him to not play there. So you're 50 million under the cap if they get rid of Aaron Rodgers, which is, basically at that point you're going full rebuild, like blow it all up. And I just don't think they're ready there. I think now after 2021, I think going into 2022, I think they get out of that contract and they can, which I think is kind of why they drafted Jordan Love. I don't think it was a smart move, but what do I know? I'm not an NFL GM. And then I think that's much more realistic. So I don't really see any way Aaron Rodgers is not in a Packers uniform this next season. I think the feelings were fresh. They just come off that hard loss. He's had a pretty tumultuous year as far as like the organization not getting him help, and there's been a lot of discussions about that. That's been talked about, but I think they run it back another year.
Yeah, I mean, if once you draft the quarterback that people assume is going to be the quarterback of the future, once you draft him in the first round, whenever you have a viable team that can compete, at that point, every single offseason is going to beg the question of, is this the year that they move on to who they think is the quarterback of the future? So, of course, this is going to be a discussion that's going to be had, but I don't think there's any chance that the Packers don't have Rodgers at quarterback next year, and hopefully this time around they'll actually use some picks to try to invest on trying to help the team, be that much closer to a championship team, because it's not like they're that far off. I mean, if you can get one more weapon on offense, a little bit of help in the secondary, I mean, they're so close to being a team that's just ready to go win a championship, and they've got one of the best quarterbacks in the league to help them do it. So you gotta make the most of what's left of what Rodgers has for the Packers, and I
Yeah,
don't
like
see
your
how they
window
don't do
really,
that.
like depending on who you lose, like if you lose Aaron Jones and some of these other guys, I mean, your window is like wide open for at least this next season. And hopefully you get everybody back healthy. I think we saw that Bakhtiari injury. They're basically a David Bakhtiari injury away from probably winning that ball game
Yeah.
yesterday. So I think you know I think you run it back at least one more year. Um, so some other guys here that could possibly be on the move. I don't think they will be. So we got Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz. Obviously Dak's a free agent. Uh, they can franchise tag him again for the second time if they don't, if they don't get a deal worked out. I think that's more than likely what's going to happen. I don't think they just let Dak walk away for nothing. So I think you could possibly franchise him and trade him, and then have a deal in place with a team that they're trading him to. But I just don't really see any way that Dak's not a Cowboy next year. I think they're going to try to get it worked out at least for one more year, and then they're going to, if it doesn't work out, then they see about trading him maybe during the season.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that there's, I mean, it makes no sense not to just franchise tag him and see how he looks post injury. And if he plays anything like he did the first 4 or 5 weeks of last season prior to his injury, I don't see the Cowboys not working out a deal to get him locked up for the long term. And then with the next one you had mentioned with the Eagles, and Carson Wentz. I mean, it seemed like whenever they fired Doug Peterson, the Eagles front office made their choice. I mean, it was very obvious that Doug Peterson wanted to move on from Wentz. He wanted to move on to Jalen Hurts, and he got fired supposedly for like a change in, or like a difference in opinion or whatever on the how the team was moving in the future. And reportedly they have been telling head coaching hires Carson Wentz can be fixed, like his career isn't over, things like that. So I think it's pretty clear who the front office wants to be their quarterback next year. And I don't see, with everything that they've done this offseason already so
Yeah,
far.
they always say, the one guy that could have fixed Carson Wentz was Frank Reich.
Right.
And so what do? They go out and get
Frank Reich's
Frank Reich's
assistant.
offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So I think they're just trying to get some of that Frank Reich magic back in that building. Which, I mean, so as a Colts fan, like, I really like Sirianni. I think he's good. I think he's a really good play designer. I think he's a good offensive coach. I don't know if he's head coach material just yet. I think he probably had another season or two, but I think he's got the talent. I absolutely hate him taking this job, um, because it worries me from the aspect of if Carson Wentz doesn't buy in, and if Carson Wentz doesn't perform, then that's the guy they're going to blame. Because, like you said, they they did it to a guy who won a Super Bowl 3 years ago. Like, what are they going to do to a new head coach if Wentz doesn't perform? Um, and I worry that that's going to be a bad spot for him to actually kind of grow into a head coach, because they're going to be one of those teams that, they get some guys back healthy. They were really ravaged by injuries. If they get guys back healthy, they get some more. They got a pretty decent draft pick this year that they could possibly, pick a premier player or move back and get a few more guys. Uh, if they don't make the playoffs next year, they're going to blame the coach, and they're going to, say like, well, we have the quarterback, we have the roster, we have the talent. Why didn't we make the playoffs? And plus, they play in the NFC East, so I mean, you only have to win basically 6 games to win that division. Um, yeah, man, it's. I don't like the move for Sirianni personally. I'm happy for him. I'm glad he found, a job out there. It's gonna be interesting for sure to see what happens with him. But I think they're gonna run that Wentz project back another year, because I think the owners basically committed to that contract.
Yep, I agree. Um,
And
the last couple we have on our list, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jared Goff. Yeah, I think that both teams will be bring people in to compete to try to make the job interesting, try to make these guys work for it. But I don't see either guy not being the starter next year. I think it's more likely Garoppolo isn't the starter for San Francisco than Goff isn't the starter for the Rams. It just financially, I mean, granted, if you find a guy that you know is going to outperform Goff, then it makes sense to set him on the bench regardless. But I mean, financially, if they're not going to play Goff, they're not going to cut him until at least after the 2022 season. So 2 years from now would be whenever we were having this discussion, unless they can find somebody to trade for him, which his contract really isn't that bad to trade for, despite how bad it might look on paper. There's a
but you got
pretty
to find somebody
easy.
who wants a Jared Goff.
Right, and that's the hard selling point. And
Yeah,
so, so I think Goff is the Rams quarterback next year. As much as teams, or as much as Rams fans, including myself, wish that wasn't the case. I think there's a decent shot Garoppolo is the starting quarterback for the 49ers next year, but I think there's a better chance that that's not the case. And then Cam Newton, honestly, I think that he has reached backup point. It's sad. Like, I hate to say that because I've been a huge Cam fan his entire career, going back to watching him at Auburn, and
that
it
shoulder was
sucks to
shot,
say it.
man.
Yeah, but he didn't look the same, um, and it just seems like he's probably reached backup. The backup status at this point, and it sucks. Cam he was such a fun player to watch, and just a great person in general. Like you can't get on the internet without watching him doing something else for the community of whatever team he's playing for at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's just, I mean, so for people like that are fun to watch on the field when they're at their best, and then they're just, a great person on top of that. It really sucks to kind of come, um, to the truth of that, but I think that Cam's going to be a backup somewhere next year.
Yeah, and so there's one other guy that's on the move. I don't know if you saw some reports of kind of what was going down, but I know y'all didn't think I was going to forget it. I know y'all didn't think that I wasn't going to bring it up. Do you even listen to this show? Pounding the table, baby. Matty Stafford out of Detroit. It's happening.
It seems like it is happening.
It's happening. We're coming full circle. Just come on home. You know, you've been in Detroit. They've wasted careers for years. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson, Matt Stafford. How many careers has been wasted in Detroit? Just come on down the interstate, you know, a few 100 miles, pull on over to the right, take a right or a left, depending on which way you're coming from. Come join the city of Indianapolis, because there's a franchise that would love to have you. And I know we waste our fair share of talent too. We wasted Andrew Luck, generational talent. But that was the old Colts. That was the old regime. That was Ryan Grigson. You know who's not here anymore? Fucking Ryan Grigson. We have Chris Ballard. We have Frank Wright. We have a great offensive line. Even with Costanzo retired, you know, we'll get that situation sorted out. You got big Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, no sacks allowed this year at right tackle. Ryan Kelly, all-pro, Pro Bowl center. Mark Glowinski, right guard. Really good, solid player at right guard. You know, we plug in whoever there at left tackle, but right next to Big Q, you ain't getting touched, man. You got Michael Pittman. You got possibly another money, you know, more money, if it depends on what happened with T.Y. Hilton, which I love T.Y., but he's not been the same the last few years. His contract's coming off the books. You know who's a free agent at a wide receiver spot that we need? Kenny Golladay, Matt Stafford. How about that? Reunite with Kenny Golladay. That sound good? Because we can do that. And then that's not even taken into effect. Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines. You want to talk about some weapons? We got weapons. We got line. Oh, what was that? You played with one top 10 defense your whole career, and it was coincidentally the year you went to the playoffs with 11 wins? Guess who's got a defense? DeForest Buckner, Kenny Moore, Darius Leonard. I can go on and on.
Go off, man.
Look, Matt Stafford. We paid Jacoby Brissett, and God rest his soul, Uncle Philip Rivers.
P. River.
$40+ million last year. We can absorb that $20 million and still save. We're still saving $20 million with you coming over here.
Yeah, that's light work.
Yeah. Come on. Second most cap space in the NFL, right behind the Jaguars. We got more cap space than the Jets do. And we got some guys to sign. They'll get taken care of. Chris Ballard takes care of his own. All right. So you come on down to Indianapolis where we'll treat you right. Because if there's one thing that we love in Indy, it's great quarterback play. Peyton Manning, Andrew Luck, Johnny Unitas. And I know that was Baltimore, but he's still a Colt. We know great quarterbacks. And my friend, you are a great quarterback. And we won't waste you. We'll let you play. You know, maybe you're 39 like Rivers. Maybe we got another 6 years together. Let's make that 6 years last. Let's go up to Kansas City and let's go show them what a team looks like with Matt Stafford. So, Matt Stafford, Indianapolis Colts, baby. Let's
go. I'm with you. I think that's the most likely landing spot too. You're going to be able to put it in much more beautiful detail than I would ever be able to with, you know, how much you have, how much insight you have on the team. But I agree completely. I love every aspect of your team other than the quarterback position and a little bit of the secondary. I think a little bit of the secondary is still spotty. But though you get Matthew Stafford and now you have like one small hole you need to figure out for an entire offseason with a whole mess of cap space.
Yeah, well, they've got a few, like, you know, I think we need, you know, we need to re-sign Justin Houston. I think, you know, we could use a pass rusher in the draft. Obviously, The left tackle's got to get taken care of. With our DB coach leaving, I don't know if Xavier Rhodes is going to be back. He played a lot, and he's going to want a huge contract, but he's getting up there in age. I don't know if we're going to pay him that massive contract that
Yeah,
he's
I
going
mean
to want.
he had one really good year this year, but he played pretty poor before that. So he is going to try
Yeah,
to
so
cash in on, on recency bias.
yeah, so I mean, I think
Um,
we need to add. Obviously Rock's got to get better, but Marvell Tell should come back next year. We got some guys returning next year. I think if we can land another cornerback, possibly in the draft or when one of these free agents, you know, maybe Richard Sherman, maybe you like Indianapolis, possibly. It's a good place to be. Come on down. We'd love to have you in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
so it's,
regardless of what you guys do in free agency, if you guys are able to land Stafford, immediately that shoots the Colts up to the territory of you're talking about, the
I think they're still as
Chiefs.
good as the Chiefs. I think because I think right now you've got the Chiefs and then you've got everybody else in the NFL.
Hmm.
But I think they're squarely up there with the Bills, the Ravens,
Right.
Green Bay. We don't know what's going to happen with the Saints, obviously, but they're still got a good team, but they got a whole mess of a situation down there to deal with cap space, and because even with Breeze off the books, like they're wrecked. Which coincidentally, it might be one of these teams with the cap dropping down. They might be releasing some of these players, some of these guys. Teron Armstead, maybe. We got a hole at left tackle. If you want to slide on up to Indianapolis, we got a space for you. So I'm just saying, man, it's an exciting. It's weird because usually you go into these off seasons and you don't have a quarterback and you're looking at drafting, and it's rare to have quarterbacks of the caliber of possibly Dak, possibly Rodgers, Stafford, Watson. These guys
It's
can
gonna
all
make the
change.
Brady. It's gonna make the Brady fiasco from this past offseason, like the Brady drama. It's gonna make that shit look like like off-season TV, just people bored talking about nothing, like with what could possibly be the quarterback offseason we're gonna have this year. I mean, it's insane, man, and it sucks for me as a Rams fan because like there's so much um, quarterback movement possibly going on. And I know deep down, regardless, I'm still going to have to watch Jared Goff play all year next year. So,
Yeah, it's definitely a good offseason to need a quarterback, which I mean, another thing too we didn't talk about Big Matt Stafford, he's only a year older than Luck was. So all those fans, they're saying like, "Oh, I wish Luck would unretire. I wish Luck would come back." Well, I mean, would you rather have a, rusty 32-year-old Andrew Luck or a nice pot piping bowl of 1 year older 33-year-old Matt Stafford? I love Andrew Luck, but man, this guy on here on the other side of this podcast can tell you I've been banging the drum for Matt Stafford for a long time.
yeah, and you're
So
not alone. I mean, Matt Stafford's been one of the most underappreciated quarterbacks in the league for a while now, and I think that he would finally get the recognition he deserves if he was on an actual playoff caliber team like the Colts. So, I mean, I'm rooting for you guys to get him. I hope that's where he lands is the Colts. I can't really see any other fit that makes more sense than the Colts. And I think that Stafford would really, and especially if they use some of that free agent space to bring in Galladay or bring in, God forbid, bring in Allen Robinson or,
oh my
something
God,
like
stop
that.
talking.
Or Chris Godwin,
We're gonna
I
have to
mean,
put a freaking like
if they
red heat
trade for
label up on
Stafford,
this if you
if
keep
they trade
talking
for
about Allen
Stafford
Robinson.
and bring in one of those top, I think those, yeah, Allen Robinson, Chris Godwin, Kenny Galladay.
Oh,
If you guys get any of
oh,
those three, along with Stafford, and then you've got Michael Pittman, dude,
don't forget Paris Campbell's coming back
Paris
next
Campbell's
year.
coming back. He's a fun player.
Yeah, if you
I
get
mean, you guys would be ready to rock, man, and it would be a lot of fun to watch, especially
maybe
with Jonathan Taylor coming back on year two, and Naeem. Stafford
oh
hasn't been any stranger of having pass catching running back. Shout out Theo Riddick. So I mean, like you thought it was fun throwing
yeah,
to Theo Riddick.
wait till you
Let
get some
Naeem
Naheem
Himes
Hines,
work.
baby.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be that's the one that makes the most sense out of all these quarterbacks that could be moving to me, and it's the one I think would be the most fun. And so I hope that happens. And I would just again thank God that the Rams are not in the AFC, because that would just make the AFC even less fun to be in if you're not a fan of the Chiefs or the Colts. So
Yeah, and
um,
look, man, if this doesn't happen, if he goes somewhere like New Orleans or Washington or San Francisco, I'm going to have a eulogy on this podcast. I'm wearing all black. We're lighting some candles. And
San Francisco is my nightmare for any of these quarterbacks that we're talking about. Watson, Stafford, Rodgers, Dak, I don't know how many are likely for it to happen, but if any of those
Kyle
guys,
Shanahan just even a remotely like decent quarterback.
Yeah,
he went to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right.
Yeah,
the Rams always a Rams fan. We already have to deal with, Kyler Murray. We already have to deal with Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, DeAndre Hopkins, all these guys. The 49ers have a great defense, barring, injuries. Their offense is pretty set outside of the quarterback position. And now the Rams, all the Rams have done this offseason is they lost a guy that held front office positions from 2003 to 2020. He's now the Lions GM, and Brad Holmes. They lost Ray Agnew, who was the director of pro personnel, and had a big part in drafting a lot of the mid-round guys that the Rams have hit on over the last several years from 2017 to 2020. He's the Lions assistant GM. Brandon Staley, the defensive coordinator of the number one defense in football, is now the Chargers head coach.
Your DB coach just got hired.
Right, yeah. Joe Barry, who was the defensive passing game coordinator and the linebackers coach, or he was the linebackers coach for the Rams. He's now the defensive passing game coach and linebackers coach for the Chargers. He followed Brandon Staley. Aubrey Pleasant, like you just mentioned, the Lions' new secondary coach, who was the Rams cornerback coach this past season and was one of the main person that Jalen Ramsey credited for the reason he had the best season of his career up to this point, and was one of the people that he was hoping would get the Rams defensive coordinator job whenever Brandon Staley left. He is now the Lions secondary coach, which is technically an upgrade from the, just the cornerback coach job he had. And then Liam Cohen, who was the Rams quarterback coach for several years, is now the Kentucky Wildcats offensive coordinator, which is cool for me because cool for us because I'm a Kentucky football fan. We're Kentucky football fans, so that'll be cool to see, how the McVay system, the McVay tree translate to college football. But it was just another piece they got. So, you've got like 6 pieces from the front office and coaching staff for the Rams that are gone. A quarterback situation that's like,
basically, if you do Sean McVay's laundry, you're getting an NFL job.
Right. Yeah. And so, not only do they have the whole quarterback drama with Goff and everything going on that they got to deal with, they've got all these pieces in the front office and the coaching staff they've got to replace. And then once you get all that figured out, you get to deal with Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Kyler Murray and
because Pete Carroll's going to run the ball more next year. So
praise God, I hope he does, man. And then on top of that, you got to deal with Kyle Shanahan, who who cares who his quarterback is? He's gonna make it work. He's gonna,
especially if they get healthy, man. Like they get that defense back healthy. But see, so here's the only thing I think that works in the Colts because the Colts are picking 21. There's been a lot of talk, online and Twitter. Well, is the 21st pick going to be good enough to get Matthew Stafford? Because the 49ers are picking earlier. The Washington football team is picking earlier. All these other guys are picking earlier. They can offer some better packages. But 49ers got that Garoppolo contract at least another season. It's going to be a lot of money tied up. And they traded us DeForest Buckner last season. Thank you, San Francisco, because they couldn't pay these guys. Which I think we're going to pull up the contract situation here. And then Washington, they're a quarterback away, possibly from having a really, really, really good roster. These guys play in the NFC. The Lions are going to have to deal with these guys for the next few years. You know who the Lions won't have to see the next few years? Who don't play in the same, conference? The Colts.
Yeah.
You can ship Matthew Stafford right out. Yeah, you can get, we'll give you 21. We'll give you another pick. Hell, we'll probably, we'll throw you a second rounder next year as well. If you're trying to rebuild everything, we'll give you some picks. And you won't even have to see
this is the part that scares me about the 49ers as a Rams fan is Jimmy Garoppolo has now entered the territory of his contract where he is very cuttable based on his dead cap. I mean that That sucks, man. That just as a Rams fan, seeing that and seeing the possibility of him, being cut and then being able to move on pretty much pain-free.
I know New England needs a quarterback. Maybe they ship old Jimmy G back to Bill. That's what he was wanting. So he wanted Jimmy G over Tom Brady.
Yeah,
maybe
give him his wish.
Yeah, maybe old Jimmy G heads back to the snowy Northeast. Get out of that California weather. I wouldn't want to do that personally, but hey. So that kind of covers our quarterbacks. And then what were some other things you kind of wanted to touch on here while we got a little bit of time?
I mean, I think that mainly was it. I mean, obviously we record these podcasts on Monday nights, and after this point, we've been doing game recaps on Monday nights, and with no Super Bowl this week, it's not until the week after, coming next Monday, we really don't have any game recaps to cover anything, unless we want to spend an hour talking about the Madden simulation of the Pro Bowl, which I don't have much interest in talking about.
I don't want to talk about anything Madden related.
Right. So we've got kind of an open week where we can have some fun. Where if I had to guess, we're probably going to get back to our roots and really focus on some fantasy football. Our one true love. We finally got a week where we can really do that and have some fun with that. So, and then we're going to, we've talked about we're going to hold a special podcast the Friday before the Super Bowl, where we're going to try to get as many people on here as possible to drop their predictions on the Super Bowl and just kind of talk some shit. Have some fun.
You can't say Super Bowl.
Oh yeah, my
shit!
bad.
I just said it.
Yeah. All right. Well, if the NFL for some reason stumbles upon this, we're screwed. But I think we're safe, considering there's probably only about 2 people that have made it this deep into the podcast at this point. But, so we got that coming up. That's going to be a lot of fun, as always.
Thanks, Mom.
Right. Yeah.
I said naughty words.
As always, we're on Apple, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube. Go subscribe to the Apple and Spotify, go subscribe to YouTube, drop a like on the video. Likes and comments help us. On YouTube specifically, if you disagree with anything we're saying, go drop some comments in the YouTube section. That gives us a
there's
chance
some of you that do.
Yeah. If only our sleeper chat comments automatically
chat
forwarded to YouTube, our videos would probably pop, because there's so many. There would be so much activity in the comments.
You guys would love that.
So that's kind of the big thing for us. I mean, hopefully. It's even if this never blows up, man, it's a blast to just sit down, take an hour and a half out of a week, and just be able to sit down and actually talk.
Plus, too, next year too, or not next year, but hopefully next year we're still doing this, which I see reason it won't be. So keep listening. But next week, we can even kind of get into some draft news, because I'm really curious, especially these quarterbacks now, because Detroit's going to be needing a quarterback. These other teams, maybe the Jets make a move like we talked about earlier. So Houston could be up there needing a quarterback, and I got to know how many fucking pull-ups can some of these quarterbacks do? I gotta know, man. I gotta know if they're going to be athletic enough to play NFL. Because be slow, they're not strong. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see, because that's how you measure it, man. You gotta do some fucking pull-ups. So
yeah, it's. I mean, I'm sure the way the NFL has been trending lately. I'm sure they'll give us plenty of shit to talk about between now and next Monday. And if they don't, I'm sure we'll find out about enough unathletic people that happen to be the NFL that we didn't know. That. That have no business being in the NFL, and members of our dynasty league should be in there instead. I'm sure we'll get to find out more about that too as the week goes on. So I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about. I'm sure it won't be an issue to find shit to talk about this time next week. But nevertheless, we won't have a football games to talk about. So next week, this will be the first time that we haven't had an actual game or games to talk about on a podcast since we started this thing back up. So that'll be fun, just to kind of get to freelance it and have some fun and go back to what we love with fantasy. So just if you made it this far, we appreciate you, and stay tuned, and we're going to keep pumping out the bullshit.
That's what we do, man. So, like you said, thank you guys for listening. We will catch you next Monday with possibly a special episode. Might have a little guest in store. Who knows? But make sure you like, subscribe. Where the YouTubers say, pound that subscribe button, smash that subscribe button on YouTube. Then make sure you follow us on Spotify, follow us on Apple Podcasts, give us a listen, and give us some feedback. Rate us on Spotify, rate us on Apple, because the more feedback we get from you guys, the better. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week.